In this video, I'm going to be showing you all you need to know on how to get started with sugar beets and starting a sugar beet farm in Farming Simulator 22. Let's get into it. Alright, so let's begin. So we're going to jump into new farmer mode. We're going to jump into Elm Creek. We've got some mods installed, but we're going to be focusing on base game equipment. So let's load on in. Standard character. Let's go with this guy. Alright, so we're going to skip the tutorial and we're going to get straight to work. So first thing we're going to do is jump in this guy. Harvest up this wheat. So we'll hire a worker. And what we're going to do is we're going to get straight into sugar beet planting. So we'll get this harvested. Got a couple of other things to do first. So this guy, we'll get him out of the way. So basically, if you were doing this sort of as a follow along, if you wanted to start your sugar beet farm, this is the way I'd recommend you do it. Obviously, you can pick this up at any stage during your gameplay, but this is just one way of doing it. Right, so let's get this guy over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to basically focus on just this one field initially, okay? So we'll hire a worker, get this cultivator happening. Alright, so what do we need? We've got weeds growing, it needs lime. Right, so we're going to sort those steps out as well. One thing I am going to do is just change the time scale quickly. So I like to play on real time setting. Everything else is set to normal, so we're not changing anything else. So just as you would experience the game loading up for the first time is how we're experiencing it here, okay? Alright, so while those guys are doing their thing, let's go and have a look at what we need to get underway for sugar beets. So let's go to the help menu. So basically the same information applies for potatoes. So sugar beets require special sowing machines, blah blah blah, halum topper. So that's going to be to cut off the foliage for harvesting. The sugar beet cutter is used to create chopped sugar beets, or you can use sugar beets whole in the sugar mill for production. So basically the end game for sugar, hang on, let's get this guy sorted, getting towed away. Generally, you might want to spread out your workers. When they're working in the same field, it can get a bit congested. So just something to keep in mind. Yes, obviously the end goal with the sugar beets is to turn them into sugar. Okay, so that's going to be in the sugar mill, so we'll talk about that when the time comes. But basically, let's have a quick look at the tools and equipment we're going to be using. So we need a planter for sugar beets. As opposed to potatoes, which require a potato planter, what we need is, just double check seeders don't have it. Yeah, so seeders don't have the sugar beet crop. It's the planters that are required. So all the planters in game will do corn, sunflower, soybeans, sugar beets, which you can see there, the little beet icon. So I'll zoom in on that so you can see the difference, and cotton. So if we scroll along here, we'll see all these guys fulfill that need. So what we are going to need to do is we're going to need to acquire so we'll need to invest in one of these guys. So I think what we'll do is probably get this one or this one. So we'll lease that at the time when the time comes. Let's just have a look at the seasons menu for when we can actually plant sugar beets. So if we come down to sugar beets, harvest season is upon us in October. So we're going to have to cycle through to March to get some sugar beets in the ground. So what we're going to do in the meantime is inject some cash. So let's grab a loan. So we come to the financer screen, grab a $500,000 loan. All right, so we've injected some money, and then we're just going to put down some solar panels. So the reason why we put the solar panels down, and if you're familiar with a few of my other guides on how to start farms, we generally put some of these in early to maximize their benefit over time. So let's go 2 and 3. Okay, so they'll pay themselves off in about 2 in-game years. Okay, and then we can move forward with the planting. All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to go pick up our seeder. Actually, no, we're not going to do that because we're going to lease it. But what I am going to do is send this guy down to the shop in preparation for that. So obviously we don't want to lease a piece of equipment for a few months while we're waiting to get into the planting window, because we'll just pay for the lease unnecessarily because the machine won't be able to be used. Now, of course, you could do other types of crop in the meantime, taking advantage of being in the month of August. But for the purposes of the sweet potato planting, we're just going to skip ahead and focus just on that crop, okay? So the risk is when you're playing, if you want to, you can dabble in other styles of farming, But if you're going to choose to go down one path rather than another, it kind of makes sense to just focus on one type of farming at a time. Alright, so this guy's cultivating, so we'll get the cultivation done. This guy's heading down to the farm shop, and what we will do is we're going to sleep now. So we're going to get some income from our solar panels. We're going to sleep through till, just double check which month we need to get to. So we need to get to March. Okay, so we've got a few months to sleep through, so let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so that's the first cycle down, so you can see we've got about 11,000 in property income. So that was from our solar panels. We've got some weed growth, which we'll sort out a little bit later on. Okay, but let's just keep sleeping through until we get to March. Now, another thing you want to do is keep an eye on the used vehicle sales as you go through, because there might be some good opportunities come up for vehicles and equipment that you may need. If we see any, I'll tell you which ones you want to look out for, and that is in this menu here. So we've got a field creator mod, so that's a mod. We don't need to worry about that. So if you're a new player, you won't be familiar with what mods are at this stage, so don't worry too much about that, because we're just going to be using base game equipment. So that's equipment that comes standard with the game. Okay, so another 11,000 in property income. Still got some weeds growing, but that's fine. Okay, so we're coming into December, so the property income is going to drop slightly. So you can see we've got a bit of equipment here, so a sprayer, roller, and this looks to be a subsoiler, which wouldn't be too bad, but the horsepower requirements are too high. Okay, let's keep pushing through. Okay, so we dropped down to 6,000 now. Looks like our cultivation is just about done. So it's just missed a little bit, so let's go and sort that out. So you can see we've got some weeds there, but they'll go away once we carry out the planting for the first time. Now you will see other videos that recommend you sell off a few things if you're not sure what you're doing in the beginning to get some extra money, but I think that's not a great idea if you're a new player, because you don't necessarily know what you need or you don't need, because you may change what you want to farm and what sort of style of farming you want to do. And if you sell a piece of equipment that you need and then you decide you needed it, you got to go and repurchase it. So I think it's just best to keep a hold of everything until you're sure. All right, here we are in March, so we've got snow, which is pretty cool. All right, now we should be able to plant. So let's go and grab, so we've got our field that's cultivated. Now we need a planter, so we're going to need to go, I reckon we'll go probably 6 meter working width, 16 kph top speed. This one will do seed and fertilizer, so the maxima 3 till. Okay, so actually I'll probably go the Kun. So the Kun Maxima 3 till. So it's got the same, it's a little bit slower, but it's got the same working width as the Lemken. So let's go ahead and lease that. Okay, cool. The Lemken does have an additional tank as well, so if you want to check the combinations, that'll just tell you. So yeah, we can use the Kun TF 1512 for an extra seed or fertilizer capacity. Okay, but at the moment we're not going to worry about that. All right, so here's the planter here that we're going to be using. Okay, let's get that connected. Okay, when we need to switch it to the correct seed. Actually, what I'll do first is, because it doesn't matter, let's grab some solid fertilizer and let's grab some seed. So actually I'll grab probably 2 of them, and all you need to do is pull up alongside the pallets. Okay, not a huge amount of seed there, so we'll see how we go. So planters generally don't have the same seed capacity as the seeders. Okay, a little bit lower, but basically what we need to do now is we'll get this back to the farm and then I'll show you the next steps. So I'll see you over there. All right, here we are at our field. So let's get this thing unfolded. So L1, press X to unfold. It'll go through its unfolding animation. Okay, let's just check what this field has got. So it needs lime and needs large weed. So what about this field here? Also needs lime. So we should probably do the liming first. So what I will do is let's go and grab a lime spreader. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip the lime for now, but basically just know if you've got needs lime indicated, if you don't apply the lime, you'll get a 15% yield deficit. Okay, you can also turn off the needs lime requirement in the menu if you don't want to deal with it. Okay, so that is general settings. Sorry, game settings, lime required, whether or not you need to spread lime on your fields periodically to keep the yield high. Okay, so that's what that is. and the weeds should disappear momentarily. Now I'm just going to hire a worker straight up to do this, and we do have snow on the ground, so that's okay. So we're definitely growing, so you can see that there. Oh no, I didn't change the crop, did I? Whoops. Let's try this again. Okay, so what you need to do first of all, so let's go back to the start here, fix this up. Okay, what I am going to do actually is, okay, so we've got to change to the right crop. So this time L1, press triangle, cycle through the crops. So we've got sunflower, soybeans, sugar beets. So we want to make sure we're on sugar beets. Okay, this time I'm going to, so I have to do this manually because I've already, so let's go lower seeder, turn on seeder, let's see if this will put in. Okay, I'm going to have to cultivate that. Alright, so here we are for our seeder. So we've selected sugar beets, so you can see that in the top left. So let's make sure sugar beets are selected. Come on over to our field. Let the planter extend. So we've already cultivated this field. We've skipped the lime for now. We're just going to go straight into planting. So I'm just going to hire a worker. Let that guy do his thing. And then you can see there we've got sugar beet growing, needs a weeder, needs lime, needs rolling. Okay. Now I believe if we can still put lime down at this stage if we wanted to, alright. But I think we're gonna, just for the purposes of the tutorial, we're just gonna move forward and just gonna focus on the beets for the moment. And what we're gonna do is, this should be, yep, harvested wheat. We'll go ahead and cultivate this field in preparation for getting that planted with some sugar beet also. Alright, so needs lime, so let's go ahead and see if we can't tackle the lime situation. So we're going to jump into this guy. So we've got 3 tractors available to us, so we might as well use them. So we're going to head back down to the shop, grab a lime spreader, and we're going to throw down some lime. And we've also got to deal with the rolling, so we'll sort that out too. So I'll send this guy down to the shop, and then I'll see you guys over there. Right, here we are at the shop, so let's go and grab a lime spreader. So come into fertilizer spreaders, we're just going to grab the Bredel K105, the small version, hit customize, and we're just going to go stock standard, so we're going to lease that. Okay, so we've got the spreader there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab some lime. So we'll grab some big bag pallets, grab 4 pallets of lime, so you can see them there as well. So let's go and get connected. Now we did move forward to April, so this is the last month on the crop calendar that we can get our crop planted. So as long as you get it in within the correct window, you'll be all good. So we can see that here. So April, sugar beets, so this is the last month we can get that planted. So if you miss the planting window, with seasons turned on, you cannot plant the crop again until the following year. So it's very important to pay attention to that if you're playing with seasons turned on. You can turn seasons off if you don't want to deal with it, and that way you can plant basically whatever you want to plant when you want to plant it. Just depends on what you want to do. Alright, so we're 88% full, so I could probably get another pallet in there if I wanted to, but I'll just push through for the moment. I'm going to be using a worker anyway down the other end, so it's going to have helper buy turned on, which basically replenishes the quantity of lime that's in the trailer. Okay, if you want to use that, you can turn that setting off, and it will basically use what's in the trailer down till it runs out. Okay, that goes for fertilizer, lime, whatever it might be. But yeah, that's what the helper buy function does. So I've got that turned on as standard. So we'll head back down to the farm. We'll get this spread out, and we'll go from there. All right, let's go and have a quick check of our field. So the needs lime should still be there. Okay, so let's jump back into this guy. Now I can't remember how big the working width is here, so I'm just going to drive approximately thereabouts. Okay, turn that off and just see if that, yeah, so you can see there the needs lime hint has gone, so the blue writing. So we are able to carry on. So I'm just going to hire a worker and they can do the rest of the field for me while I attend to this guy who's just about done. So let's just check out how they've been getting on. So we've got needs rolling as the next step. So what we're going to do is we should have a spare tractor, not currently, but once that once this seeder is probably finished, Okay, cool, so he's done. So you can see there we haven't used very much fertilizer or seed, so that's basically the helper bifunction doing its thing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this guy up on the next field here, and we're going to do a headland row up this end. So the reason why we do a headland is just to give us the ability to turn around a little bit easier on the subsequent run. So we're just going to run a strip this way, maybe 2, and then we'll send him going long ways afterwards. Let's check in on our lime spreading. Okay, coming along nicely, and this field's just about cultivated. So we'll let this guy do 2 headlands, and then we'll come back in. So you can see there, space is a little bit of an issue. Alright, so especially in this smaller field, and particularly because we've got the solar panels sort of blocking the way. So what I'm going to do is get this guy turned on and lowered. So I'll just do this a little bit with mist manually. And while I'm here, I'll demonstrate how to use the ridge marker. So if we push up on the D-pad, we get a ridge marker that comes out on the left or right hand side. So in this case, what we're doing is we're making a line in the soil, so when we come back through on the subsequent pass, and what you can see here is I'm currently driving the tractor, so the ridge marker gives us a target to aim for. So I'll show you that in a second. So we finish that run, bring the ridge marker up, let's lift the seeder. Now I have missed a little bit there, but we'll come back and fix that up later. And then what you want to do is you want to line up the center of your bonnet, or the center of your tractor, with this line that we've just put in the soil. Okay, so I'm just going to hire a worker here just to save a bit of time. And then you want to drive that point on your bonnet in the middle of the ridge, and that'll give you perfectly straight lines. So this is if you're doing it manually, but I've just switched back to the worker now to make life a little bit easier. Okay. Alright, our liming is done for the moment, so let's disconnect. Now you can drive on the field at this stage, it doesn't matter. And we're going to go grab a roller, so let's go send this guy down. And then while he's in transit, we will have a look at the field rollers. So we'll come into rollers, and we want the Dalbo power roll. So that is vary in size. There's a bigger one and a smaller one, so we're going to go with the smaller one. So we're going to lease that. Now the reason why we're doing this is to give us a yield bonus. Okay, so the rolling I think gives us 2.5%, possibly 5%. It's in the in-game Hell menu if you want to have a look at it. And it's that option. All these field enhancements are optional steps. However, rolling and mulching can't be turned off. They must always be done, otherwise you get a yield penalty. The yield penalty is only, like I said, 2.5% for mulching, 2.5% for rolling. So it's not that big a deal if you do miss it. Okay, but just for the purposes of the tutorial, we will cover it. Alright, let's head back down there and we'll show you how this thing works. Alright, here we are back at the farm, so we're going to start from the opposite end, just so we don't potentially collide with our seeder, or our planter, sorry. So let's unfold the roller. So it'll just unfold like so. It's got a pretty decent working width, so it covers a pretty large area pretty quickly. Now, you can basically only use the roller once you've planted seed. So what this basically does is it makes a seed bed, so it provides better germination for your crops in real life. Okay, so I'm just going to hire a worker. See, the needs rolling requirement is still lit there, and if we come over now, the rolling has gone, we've just got the weeding. Okay, so that's going to be our next step. So let's go and check out this guy. So he'll go ahead and do that field. This guy's just about done, and this guy is done. So we'll use this guy to go and grab a weeder. Now the weeds grow in three primary sizes. So you've got small, medium and large. So small are the easiest to deal with. If you let them get to the large size, you basically have to use pesticide, not pesticide. You have to use herbicide to get rid of them. So weed killer essentially. And it gives you a 15% yield deficit. Okay, so you do get a penalty for using that chemical. But if you use the manual weeder, which we're about to take a look at, you don't get that penalty. Alright, let's head down to this field here and we'll get some sugar beets planted while we're doing these other jobs. Alright, here we are at the shop. Let's have a look at these weeders. So come into the tools section, come down to weeders, and you've got an assortment based on horsepower requirement. So we're just going to go, how big is this one? 6 meters. This is 9 meters. So we'll just go the smaller one, this one just here. And it also tells you up the top there what size weed this can be used on. So this can only be used in the first growing stages. Then you've got, where's the hose? One of them should be a hoe. Might be this guy. Hose can pull out small and medium weeds. Weeders can pull out small weeds. So this one here will do medium and small. This one here will do just small. Okay. So let's go ahead and grab that. So even though the weeds aren't visible currently, we can do the pass with the weeder to get rid of the weeding or weeds growing penalty. So we'll demonstrate that in a second. So let's head back down to the farm. Okay, let's check out what this field needs. So it needs lime and needs rolling. So we are going to reconnect our lime spreader. And I'm just going to do a quick manual run around. So this won't be probably as nice a job as the worker would do, but we're going to get most of the field covered. Now it's up to you whether you want to do jobs manually or get your workers to do it primarily. It's just personal preference. I tend to do a bit of a mixture, but the workers obviously allow you to save quite a bit of time. And if you don't mind missing, little bits of your field here and there, this is probably the way to go. Okay. So we'll quickly whip around, get this done so we can get the rolling underway. Alright, let's turn that off. So I'm just going to park this over here. We'll get the roller reconnected. Okay, and then we're just going to hire a worker. Our weeder should be back, which he is. And we'll demonstrate that on this center field. Alright, so if we check out where we're at, so we have got weeds growing and it needs a weeder. Okay, now because we can't see the weeds, we know that they're small, so therefore this weeder will be perfect for the job. So basically just lower the weeder down, drive over the field, so you're not going to get anything with the lime showing, but you can see there where we have gone over. Okay, the weeds growing hint has now disappeared, and we've got a yield bonus of 98%, 100% fertilized. Now the reason why we're not got 100% yield bonus is because we didn't mulch in the first step. Okay, so because we had wheat in this field, basically if you want to get the additional 2%, so if I stand over here, you need to mulch the field. Okay, but there is no hint for needs mulching. It's basically something you've just got to be aware of. Okay, if we have a look at this, needs rolling should be removed. This guy just needs to do the weeding. Alright, so we've missed a little bit there, but I'm not too worried about that. Let's go and park this planter for the moment. Alright, so this field is pretty much good to go. So once this weeder has done the rest of the field, everything's sorted. All we're going to do now is cycle through until harvest time, which for sugar beets is going to be October. So what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months roughly till we get to harvest season. So what I'm going to do is I'll let these guys do their thing, and then we'll cycle through the months, and then we'll get to harvest time, and then we'll go through the harvesting steps. All right, so we just finished with the weeding, so you can see all the weeding is done. Our fertilization is only up by 50%, so we do need to get another round of fertilizer on. Okay, so let's head on over to the shop, and we're going to grab a fertilizer spreader. Okay, so we can use the Bredel that we've already got, okay? But what I recommend is grabbing this guy, so the Amazon ZATS 3200. And we're just going to lease that. So that's it over there. Just because it's got a pretty big working width, it's pretty inexpensive. And all our leasing costs are going to be covered by our solar panels. Okay, so not a huge issue on the expense front. And we're just going to utilize the fertilizer we've got here remaining. So left over from earlier, we're going to utilize helper buy to fertilize our field. So let's head back over to the farm and I'll show you how to get that second application of fertilizer underway. Alright, here we are back at the farm, so we're just going to get this guy in position. So I'm just going to go straight down the middle. Alright, so what I recommend doing, because we basically planted the sugar beet, and at the same time we put an application of fertilizer down, what I recommend you should do is get a growth state on this and then fertilize after the growth state. Okay, that way you know your fertilizer is going to work, and it's going to be indicated by the fertilized percentage coming up to 100. Okay, so we're all planted, all ready to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and sleep to next month. All right, so here we are in May. So if we go back to our crop calendar, so you can see there we're now in the growing window, so we can't plant and we can't harvest, and we should have some sprouts. Okay, so you can see that there. Everything is moving along nicely. Now we've got our fertilizer spreader just here. Now, one thing you need to be aware of is if the crop grows to a certain height, and if we were to drive on the crop with wide tires, okay, we'll get a crop destruction penalty. So at this stage, we're all good. So you just need to remember that if you're going to drive over a more mature crop, you need to be aware that you're going to get the crop destruction penalty, okay? So you can see here, we're able to fertilize the entire area in one pass, which is super convenient. And if we jump out of the tractor, we can see we've now got our yield bonus up to maximum, and the fertilization is at 100%. So what I'm going to do here is just quickly go through and fertilize this field. Now we do have some weeds growing over here because we didn't apply the weeder to all the fields. So obviously if you were doing this in your own farm, you'd want to make sure that the weeder runs over everything. But we are basically all ready to let this grow, okay? All right, one final check. So obviously our center field here is the one that we've put the most work into, so we should get maximum amount of sugar beets out of this. So all we've got to do now is sleep through the months until we get to sugar beet October. All right, so I'm going to fast forward a couple of months, and then we'll come back in. Actually, what I'll do is I'll show you what the crop looks like at each growth state, and then we can move on. All right, here we are in June, so let's see if the crop has visually changed. So pretty much the same. Actually, might have gotten a touch bigger. I could be seeing things, but anyway, let's go into the next month. And obviously the other way to check that if it's ready to harvest, when you walk over your field with the field information turned on, it'll tell you, okay? So you don't always need to refer back to the seasons menu or your crop calendar. Okay, so we are in July. Property income's ramping back up. Okay, so this looks a bit thicker to me now. It's still growing. Okay, cool. Now, if you were playing with this for real, you'd be keeping an eye on the used vehicle sales and grabbing anything that, you know, you think was useful. Okay, where are we now? August. So it looks pretty much the same as July. I think we're 2 months away. So obviously we don't need to do anything. All the work's done. Just got to let that grow. Okay. Now this is where the solar panels come in handy, because if we are just focusing on the sugar beets, you know, for the tutorial purposes, there's no point doing other things, because this is our main crop. We could be doing contracts and, you know, chasing other types of farming, but if you want to go, like I said earlier, deep into one path, this is the way to do it. All right, so getting some more density. Okay, obviously this is an underground root crop, so all the magic happens below the soil. The top, however, so just double check here, I don't want to go over time. October. Now hopefully we get good weather. Obviously we don't want it to rain, because that potentially reduces our yield, particularly does for grain crops. I think root crops might be in a different category where it doesn't affect it, but just be mindful of that. And we are still growing. Okay, unusual. Now I would have thought that would, so sugar beet growing, harvest season. Now if you want to check and be sure, come into your global menu, look at your filters. So you can see that there, it's still growing. Okay, because we planted these in April instead of March, they need another month. Okay, so if we had planted them in March, they would have been ready now. But because we planted them in April, still need one more month. Okay, so you need a full 12-month cycle with seasons turned on. Now what you don't want to do is go past, so sleep past into the next month, because what will happen is the crop will wither and rot and become useless. Okay, so just be very, very careful not to miss your harvesting window. Okay, cool. So we're all good. We've got remove foliage as the indicator. Okay, so that basically means we can now harvest. So if we come back into our harvest menu, you can see we're red for remove foliage, which basically means we have to top these. So cut off the green material off the top, and then we can harvest. So what I'm going to do is just speed up time a little bit so we are in some good daylight conditions. All right, so 10 o'clock, so good conditions for harvesting. Okay, so we can see a little bit better. All right, so we need to grab probably this guy. So he's a 190 horsepower tractor, and we are going to not drive on the crop. So we're going to demonstrate the topper and the harvester. So there's two types. There's a self-propelled, which is one that you drive, that tops and collects at the same time. So we'll get this guy down to the shop. While he's driving, let's go and have a look at the sugar beet technology. Okay, so you want to come into tools, beet technology. So we've got a couple of machines here. Okay, so the roper. So this is designed to attach to the front of your tractor and do the topping. Same with this one. It's just got a bigger working width. The Grimmy and this guy looks to be, so this one looks to be potentially what we would use. Okay, so at least this way we can top and collect at the same time. So I just want to double check that that's the only options we've got. So as far as a tow behind setup goes, this is the one we're going to be using. Okay, so the rootster, this guy. So let's go ahead and lease that. And let's go ahead and lease this guy. All right, and here they are. So let's go drop our front weight off. Now ideally I would have left that back at the farm so I don't have to come back and retrieve it later, but okay, let's get this guy connected. So there's our topper connected. So it's going to cut the green material off the top of the crop. And this is the harvester. Okay, so let's have a quick look. So we got the belt and conveyor, the collector, and then an offloading point. So we'll demonstrate all that stuff very shortly. So let's head on back to the farm. All right, here we are at the farm. So let's go and get unfolded. Okay, so what we're going to do is, okay, unfold the harvester. So let's have a look at what this guy does. So we're all set. Okay, and then we've got the pipe out function just here. So that's going to unload into a trailer, so we'll leave that down for the moment. Alright, so let's lower the harvester, turn it on. Okay, switch to our front tool. We're going to turn on the topper and we're going to lower that. And then basically what we're going to do, drive over the crop. Okay, and what we should start to see, so you can see the beets coming up. And we're just going to try and whip around the outside. So you can sort of see the magic happening, see the beets going on board. Pretty straightforward. And if we just jump out, we should see, if we come over here where it's a little bit more pristine. So we're getting the weeds Yeah, where's the harvested? Yeah, anyway. Okay, let's turn everything back on. Turn on the topper. Turn on the harvester, and we should be good to go. So obviously you can do this manually like we are here, or you can hire a worker. So we're just going to try and navigate this turn. Might be a little bit difficult. Just going to go straight down the middle here. Just make it easier to turn around at the other side. Okay, we're still getting our crop in. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do, just inspect the field where we've harvested. Why is it showing weeds growing? So this must be a section where I missed with the weeder, perhaps. Anyway, we'll inspect the different area in a moment. Right, let's see how this guy turns around. Now you'll notice that when the worker does the turning around, it doesn't give you a crop destruction penalty. Okay, so if we were doing this ourselves, what we would have is issues with crop destruction. But the problem with these fields is they're a little bit small for long, big equipment like this. Okay, so just something to consider. That's probably why it's worthwhile to do it the way I was doing it, going around the outside a few times. But the worker seems to be managing so far so good. So I'll let this guy do his thing for a little bit, and then we'll come back in with the self-propelled option. Alright, so let's have a look at the self-propelled sugar beet harvesters. Okay, so the reason why you would want to use one of these is obviously time efficiency. Okay, so we've got the Panther, we've got the Rexor, and then we've got the Tiger S. So basically different capacities, speeds, they're all the same. These two, the ropers, they need a header attachment, which is separate. Okay, but the Grimmy, very similar to the potato harvester, but just configured for sugar beet. So obviously you can only use it on the one crop. We're going to use the Roper Panther, so we're going to lease this guy. So we're just going to go standard setup. We're going to go to combinations, and we're going to get the appropriate header. Okay, so this one is for this machine. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that guy there for the moment. Now we'll grab the big guy. Now because you do get quite a big yield out of your sugar beets, okay, this is where the big capacity machines come in handy. And obviously this is a lot more compact and easier to maneuver. That's also just pretty cool, okay. So it's always fun using the big equipment. So we'll get this guy back to the farm, and we shall carry on. Right, here we are back at the farm. So this guy's got a pretty good transit speed as well. So very handy from getting to point A to point B very quickly. Okay, let's unfold the header and unfold the harvester. So get all this working. Okay, turn on. First need to unfold the. Okay, lower the header perhaps. Turn on the harvester. Okay, looks like everything's working, so we should be topping, which looks like we are. And we're getting some crop in. Yep. Okay, so once again, you can drive this manually if you like. Or you can drive it yourself. It's also got a different steering mode. So if I find turn steering, crab steering left. So we want to go crab steering right here. Let's have a look at this. So if you want to go super realistic, you can use the crab steering. Basically they do that in the real world so that the trailing wheel doesn't run over the crop. I mean, if someone is more familiar than I am with sugar beet harvesters, let me know if that's actually the case. But the videos that I've seen would definitely indicate that. Okay, so we're just back to four-wheel steering here, just to make it a little bit more maneuverable. And we can just check out the animation. So basically what happens is it comes up through that conveyor belt on the left there, dumps it into the hopper, so you can see getting quite a few in there already. So pretty straightforward, very efficient, going to get a lot of beets out of this. So what I'm going to do is just send this guy off on a worker, and let's have a discussion about unloading this guy. Okay, so he's all ready to unload. So what I need to do is jump into our trailer. So this guy just here. So I'll quickly whip around, come back underneath the auger, or the conveyor belt in this case. Okay, so what should happen is, potentially we'll get some unloading happening. Yep. So even though it looks like it's falling out, it's actually going in. Okay, so we'll grab a full trailer load of beets here. Now you can obviously unload on the go as well if you'd like. We've just got this guy stationary on the side of the field, just for demonstration purposes. Alright, so what do we do now? Now, always like to test if you can store them in this type of silo, your starting silo, which you cannot. Okay, so if you were able to store it here, you'd get the indication, so tip side back not working. However, you can store this at the grain pool. Okay, so the grain pool, there's one down here, grain pool east. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a job. So let's go create job. We're going to go deliver to grain pool east, and we're going to loop it. Okay, so I'm going to hit start job. Now this guy should drive down to the grain pool unassisted. So if I just jump out here. Now the AI is a little bit temperamental, so just be aware of that. Now there's nothing stopping you from driving this down there by yourself. Now if this was a high value crop, you might consider not using the AI worker, just in case it gets stuck and unrecoverable. But I've got a level of trust in this guy today, so I'm going to send him down there on the worker. Okay, and then we'll have a look at what happens when we get down there. Alright, so we're coming up onto the grain pool just down here. So what we want to do is just drive on into this unloading point just here. Now we should get the overloading trigger like so. So you can see that there, sugar beet overloading, and then just hit triangle, R1 and triangle for tip side back. Okay, and there goes the sugar beet into storage. Okay, now you can check how much you've got in storage by coming to your prices menu, and you can see there our sugar beet currently 3,023 litres. Okay, shows you the price fluctuations, where it's being, where you can sell it and for what price currently, and the price fluctuations. Okay, so you can sell this straight away if you would like. Okay, and then when you want to retrieve it, basically L3 to start filling, find the crop that you want, and then it basically just fills your trailer back up. So we've got our 6,000 litres of sugar beets out of storage, so into storage and then out of storage again. And now we're going to find somewhere to sell them. Okay, so feed and grain south, I think that's going to be what we want to do. So what we can do is we can toggle over to this, hit tag place, and if we cruise around on our map, we should see a green beam of light somewhere. Yep, so it's down on the south of the map down here. Oh yeah, just over there. So see that big beam of light? That's where we've got to go to. Okay, and then we're going to sell this. So I'm just going to try and get out of this little parking area. Now once we get over the train line, I'll send this guy over on a worker. Okay, so it's not too far, so he should be fine. So open AI worker menu. We are just going to set destination, so you can see it's flashing there for us. I'm just going to send him just to outside. Okay, so once that job is completed, we'll go in and we'll go through the selling process. It's pretty much the same for any crop. But what we're going to do later is we're going to take these sugar beets and turn them into sugar in the sugar mill. Alright, so our self-propelled harvester is doing a great job here. Almost full. When I say almost, 75%. Okay, so I'm going to assume control. Quickly reposition. Let's lower the header. Everything looks to be working here, I think. Just admire this awesome machine in action. Okay, alright, so the worker can take over. Let's go check in on our worker. So he's coming up to the sell point just down here. So I'm going to assume control again by dismissing him. And I won't make you watch the final leg of the journey. I'll cut back in once we are at the sell point. Alright, so here we are. So basically, all you do, drive over it, hit the overloading trigger, and then we will sell these for the current market rate, which isn't very good, but we've just made some money from our first sugar beet harvest. So there we go, 2,432, so that's on easy economy. Alright, now, to get rid of that flashing beacon, we just basically come back in and untag it. It's now gone. I mean, you can leave it on there, it doesn't really matter. It's up to you. Alright, so I'm going to send this guy back on a worker, because I don't want to drive him all the way back to the farm. So we'll just send him out to the front of the gas station. Alright, so they should be on the way. Alright, how are we travelling here? Cool, one more run, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to show you an alternate way to unload the sugar beets, okay, which involves placing them on the ground and then using there's another machine to pick them up. Alright, so we are done. Okay, so what we can do now, basically we can take these and take them to the grain pool and store them like we did before. Another option is to store them on the ground and then pick them up later on for future purposes, okay? But basically if you want to store them on the ground, the only challenge is being able to pick them back up again. Okay, so you don't have to do this, but this is just, I just want to demonstrate it because there's another machine specific to the sugar beets which help with the loading of the sugar beets and the storage of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to pipe out. So we're going to come along the edge of the field here, about halfway along, and we're just going to unload here. Okay, so we're going to make a nice big pile on the ground next to our field. Okay, now the pile will get pretty high. Now basically, in real life, this is how they store the sugar beets after harvest, and this is how they load them in the next step, okay? But this is something you don't have to do. So I'm just demonstrating it to give you all the options. Alright, so we're going to store them on the ground. We are going to hire a worker, get this next field done. Now while these other jobs are underway, what you'll notice is we've got herbicide, weeds growing needs herbicide. So basically now this has been harvested. What we need to do to get it ready for the next harvest is we need to plow, okay? So if we come back into the help menu, so for root crops, where are we? So we come into plowing. So plowing is needed after you harvested root crops like potatoes, corn, and sugar beets, okay? So basically what happens now is if we try and cultivate this field, and then try to plant the sweet potato, the sugar beets, we won't be able to, or we'll get a yield penalty. Okay, so let's try this. So let's go and grab our cultivator. Alright, while this guy is doing his thing, let's go and have a look at how we can pick up that pile of sugar beets from the floor from earlier. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to come into Beet Technology, self-propelled vehicles, and we've got the Roper Males 5. Okay, so that's this guy here. So it's only specific for sugar beets. Okay, you can't use it for any other crop. Okay, there is a different version of this machine in, I believe, miscellaneous. So it's the Nawa Romas, which will do crops listed down below there. Okay, but it won't do sugar beets. Okay, so let's go and grab this guy. Now, completely optional, but if you are going to go pretty hard on the sugar beet farming, this might be a good option. Okay, or if you want to play, you know, far more realistically, this is definitely an option. Okay, and I quite like this machine. It's pretty cool, just for a simulation aspect, and I'll show you what it does shortly. So let's head down to the farm and we'll get it set up, and then we'll go from there. Alright, here we are. So let's get this guy unfolded. Okay, so as you can see, it's basically got a big scoop on the front, and it's got a conveyor that will unfold. Okay, so you can see that there. So basically what we want to do is we've got individual controls for each function. So you can see I'm controlling the conveyor belt there. I can lift it up, I can put it down, you can maneuver it around. Okay, now basically let's go lower the loading vehicle. So that's the front there. If we turn it on, basically all those augers in the front will start to work. Okay, and then what they do is they basically scoop up all the sugar beets that are on the ground. Okay, and then load them into the conveyor belt system, and then you can load them into a trailer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is get this guy in position. Okay, so let's turn it on, make sure we're all operational. Okay, now if we drive into the sugar beets here, is grab a trailer. So what I'm going to do is grab this guy from earlier. Now it helps if you have a bigger trailer to do this, because you've got a bigger target to drop the beets into. Okay, I'm basically just going to pull up alongside underneath the outlet pipe, which is pretty much there. Okay, jump back into the roper, turn it on, and if we just drive in and then adjust our, it's probably not quite where it needs to be. Try this again. Alright, so we've got it unloaded. You can see that we're picking up the sugar beets. We just haven't got a place to pipe out into. So let's get this fixed up. So we're going to get our trailer, position that underneath the conveyor. So if we should just come in here, might be a little bit off. So let's just jump back in here. Okay, and load the sugar beet into our trailer. Okay, so once you get into a bit of a rhythm, it'll load up pretty quickly. So let's turn the loading vehicle back on. So you can see there, pick it up and load it at the same time. So it just saves you having to load it manually with a, that might actually be full. Now if you have a bigger trailer, this is obviously a lot easier. Okay, not quite full. So it is a little bit temperamental at times, so I think you just got to make sure that the machine itself, so get this. So I think I've positioned these particular sugar beets too far over off my land. Okay, so that's why it's not working as well as it normally should. So what I would do if you're going to do this method is place your sugar beets closer to the field. Okay, just not as close to the road, because the machine's having a hard time picking it up, because you've got to own the land that you're on for it to load up correctly. But that's basically how you use the roper mouse, and that's another way you can pick up and store your sugar beets. Alright, so let's get on to, how's this guy traveling? Just about done. Alright, so we are all harvested. Okay, Alright, so we've demonstrated how to sell it, how to pick it up off the ground with the rope and mulls. Let's get into some sugar production. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to place down the sugar mill. Okay, so actually I should mention this quickly. If we come into the main map and zoom out, there should be a sugar mill on Elm Creek from memory. So I'm just going to have a quick look to see if I can find one. There may not be one. So depending on the map you're playing on, there may not be a sugar mill, okay? It's something you got to place down. So I don't think this one has it. So that doesn't matter. What we're going to do is we are going to place one down ourselves. So let's go into productions. We want to go into factories. And we want to come down to the sugar mill, which is this guy just here. So in our field over here that we've used before, what we're going to do is we're going to place this down. Normally we get the sugar beets up, but we're going to, just for the sake of time, place that guy down, but pick a spot on your farm that you want to work with, okay? And then basically what we need to do, now you might be a little bit more considered in your placement rather than what I've just done, okay, just to allow for easy access and stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to pipe out into the factory directly, okay? Now this should allow us to do this. So there we go, we've got some sugar beets going in. So I'm not going to put them all in. I just want to put a little bit in to start with, okay? So we've taken our sugar beets. We have put them into the factory point here. Okay, let's come around the front. Find the interaction point and let's go inside and have a look. So we've got our inputs, okay? So we've got sugar beet, we've got sugar beet cut, and we've got sugar cane, okay? So we've just put some sugar beets in there. So currently the production is inactive, so we're going to set that to running. And what you can see, we've got 8,911 litres of sugar beet in there. The recipe is 2 sugar beet makes 1 sugar, and what that's going to do is produce sugar in pellets. And that sugar is going to produce here once it's gone through a couple of cycles, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to let that run, and then we're going to come back in and go from there. All right, so what we've done is we've skipped ahead a couple of days. We're now into March. We've got some sugar that's produced from that initial batch of sugar beets that we've put through. Okay, so they pretty much appeared after the first month, but we've just cycled through to March, so we get to the next planting window. And then we can carry on with the farm operation. But that's basically the sugar beet that we have produced, from the sugar beet so far. So you can see our sugar beet is inactive. Okay, so we've got materials missing. What we're going to do now is show you how to get sugar beet cut. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to come into the tools menu. You need to go into front loader tools, scroll on over until you find the Flegel Ruby 2000. Okay. So this guy here, so it's got a cutter attachment that attaches to your front loader, okay? You also need to select a tractor that can equip a front loader. So the best way to do that is come into your owned or leased items or tractors, and in the top of the UI there, it'll tell you if this tractor can have a front loader. So we're going to use the Massey Ferguson for this purposes, okay? So the Massey is here. Sugar beet cutter is there, so let's go ahead and grab a front loader attachment. So when you're at the shop, come on down to this guy down here. So this is the repair and modification area, so all the workshop. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to hit square to customize. Just make sure you don't sell it because that'd be unfortunate. We want to put a front loader attachment on. Now you can pick the Haya or the Quickie. So we'll just go the Quickie in this case and make a note of how much horsepower you've got. So 170 HP in this case. Okay. So I'm going to customize. Now the front loader isn't attached yet. Okay. So we've still got to purchase it. But we've got the attachment on the tractor to receive the front loader. Okay. Next thing we've got to do, come into tools. We want to come into front loaders. So this here, and we want to find the Quickie. that marries up to our horsepower, which would be the 140, okay? So let's lease that. And while we're here, we'll grab this weight. So I'm just going to hook this to the back. Now, it's not always necessary to have a counterbalance on the back, but if you find your tractor's tipping because there's too much weight, just throw a weight on the back and you'll be fine. Okay, so connect the front loader to the tractor. And then connect the bucket to the front loader. Okay, and now we're ready to go. Now what this allows you to do is it basically functions like a front loading bucket like normal, so you can drive along, scoop up whatever you want. So I'm going to show you a couple of different ways on how to use this and how you can sort of automate things. And I'll show you why we need to use this, because it's got a cutting bar in the bottom. You can't quite see it in this angle, but probably there would be better. So it's got a cutting bar that chops up the sugar beet and turns it into cut sugar beet, okay? And that's how we're able to get cut sugar beet for our sugar mill. So let's head on back. All right, here we are. So we've got our pile of sugar beet on the floor from earlier. So I'm just going to grab some off of here. If I can remember how to drive this. There we go. So once again, it was a little bit too close to the road, so that's why I wasn't picking it up. Okay, so we've got some sugar beet on board. Basically what we need to do now is come on over to here. We need to turn on front loader tool, and then now that is producing cut sugar beet, okay? And it's putting it into our storage. So if we come in to productions, you can now see that we've got 177 litres of cut sugar beet in stock. Make sure to turn the production on. So it's got a little blue dot to signify that has now happened. Okay, now this can be a little bit tricky, but it is doable. What we're going to do is we're going to position the sugar beet cutter over the trigger point, okay, like so. We're then going to jump into our harvester, and we're going to try and fill the sugar beet cutter, okay? So the sugar beet cutter is full. So if we turn it on, what should happen is every time we put cut sugar beet in, now I just want to make sure this is, yeah. So you can see our sugar beet cut is filling up. Now we're obviously getting a little bit of overflow from the so just to make sure, we can see our sugar beet cut is now filling up, and our regular sugar beet, is it getting filled up or is it being used? So you just want to make sure that you're not putting your sugar beets in unnecessarily. It doesn't really matter, okay? It's just if you fill up on one, it's not going to accept it. It'll accept the other, okay? So you can see there, that's the process, okay? Right, now if we jump out, will that continue? No, it will not. Okay, so to get around that, to save us having to sit there all day while that's happening, come into your settings, okay, and you want to find the setting called automatic engine start, which I believe is down here. So you want to turn that to off, okay? So automatic engine start off. And what this will do is basically we need to manually start the engines. Okay, so I've started the engine on the harvester and I've gotten out of the vehicle and the engine is still running. I'm going to now jump into my tractor, turn the engine on, jump out of it, and they're both running. And then what I'm going to do, turn on the front loader tool and jump out, and that's now going to automatically do cut sugar beet for me while I go and do other jobs. Okay, so pretty straightforward, easy way of doing that. So you can see that there. So it just saves you having to be in the vehicle for that to happen. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to turn that off. It's basically empty anyway. So we've gone through our supply of sugar beets in this vehicle, and we've now got a fair chunk of cut sugar beet in the production. So you can see that there. All right, let's move on. All right, so let's have a look at the belt systems. So these can be used to move potatoes and sugar beets around in your farm, and you've also got a palletizer down on the end and a series of conveyors. We've got a bit of a pile of sugar beet just here to demonstrate. So I'll run through each one of these individually, but we've got this guy connected to the longer conveyor belt, then we've got this elevated conveyor belt, and then finally the palletizer here, and then we've ended up with the sugar beet pallet. Okay, so if we want to find these in the tools menu under belt systems, so we've got the Lizard S710, which is this guy here. So basically you need this one to pick up the product off the ground and then onto a subsequent conveyor. Okay, so this is the first one you need to get product from the ground into your belt system setup. Now the next one we've got in line is the Grimmy TC816. Okay, so we'll go back and have a look at it. Basically what this can be used to do is put a bunch of them together. Okay, so you can make it as long as you like. So you can daisy chain these guys together. If we have a look at the top view. Obviously we're going a bit of a short distance for demonstration purposes here, but you can connect as many of these together as you want to cover a longer distance. Okay, so that's the purpose of these guys, and they also bend and articulate in the middle to get around corners and other such things. Okay, and then we've got the elevated loader here, which is this guy, the SL8022 Quantum. Okay, so you can use this to load trailers or load a bulk haul, or in our case a palletizer, right? But this is just going to give you the elevation advantage. So this conveyor belt goes up quite high and comes out quite far. Okay, so it gives you the benefit of that. And then obviously we've got our palletizer here, so we've got some sweet potatoes in here. I keep calling them sweet potatoes, but sugar beets. And then a pallet will come out the back. Okay, so let's give this guy a bit of a demo. Now I do have a forklift standing by. Now it's up to you if you want to get a forklift or just go and grab a pallet fork for your front loader. It's much of a muchness, but I just prefer to use a forklift. So all we're going to do is drive on in. Helps if we're probably doing this on level ground in the first place. And we've got 1,000 litres of sugar beet. And now because we've got this automated, that'll basically fill up the next pallet straight away. So if I have a quick look, yeah, every time we have a pallet ready to go, that will fill it. Okay, now these pallets can be taken directly over to the sugar mill, so let's go and do that quickly. Alright, so we're here at the unloading point, so we should just be able to drive up to this trigger, and that will receive that pallet and that sugar beet. If we check our inventory, so we've got 1,000 litres just gone in. Okay, so the benefit there is it's just basically another way to store your root crops. Okay, so you can also use this for potatoes, carrots, sugar beets, parsnips, and the other red beet. So as part of the premium expansion. So yeah, that's the belt system setup. Just a little bit of an overview and another option to move and handle your sugar beet product in and around the farm. All right, let's move on. All right, so we've gone through one harvesting cycle. So we've planted. So I've shown you how to plant, how to cultivate, how to get your sugar beets underway and growing, and harvested them up for the first run. Now we're into our second subsequent run. Okay. Now in the in-gate help menu and on the website, it tells you that you need to plow after sugar beets, corn, and potatoes to maintain a high yield. Okay, so I've just got a little bit of a test going on here. This field here I've ploughed. Okay, so I've ploughed it, I've planted the sugar beets, I've run over it with the weeder, and I've rolled it. And you can see there we're fertilised 63%, got a yield bonus of 81%. Lime's not required because we don't need to lime every harvest. That's only every 3 harvests, so we did that last time. And on this field I just used the cultivator that you start with, so the blue one that you start with in new farm mode, and you can see there, so we're getting varying yield bonuses across the field, which I don't quite understand, because my understanding is that this cultivated field will have a final end yield that is lower because it's not been ploughed, as opposed to this field here. So I'm just going to run a test for this growth cycle, see what sort of weeds we get, which we shouldn't get any because we've run over with the weeder already, and we are going to fertilise one more time. So that's going to be the plan for that. So let's go ahead and sleep through until harvest time, and we'll come back in for one growth state to get some fertiliser in, and then we'll go from there. Alright, here we are. So we're in April, so this is 1 month of growth. Let's see how we're looking. So yield bonus, fertiliser is basically the same. Yield bonus saying 81%. This one is saying 78%. Strange. Right, let's fertilise. So let's go and grab a tractor. And I will mention just quickly, I've left a strip in the middle that's been untouched. Okay, so just for demonstration purposes. Okay, let's make sure we're getting all this field as much as we can. I am missing a little bit, but the majority of the field's covered. Alright, let's park this guy up. And let's have a look now. So we should have full fertilisation. Okay, yield bonus is still 98%. Interesting. So they're identical. So it would appear that you don't need to plough after every harvest. You just need to plough when the ploughing hint pops up. Okay, so if we look at the PDA, come over to our, so fully fertilised, mostly fertilised. That's interesting. So yeah, it may just be a case that the game UI is a bit faulty, or if we're going to get a reduction, but judging by that, I would say you don't need to plough after every harvest. You can just cultivate. Okay, that's interesting. Right, let's sleep through until we get to harvest, and we'll see if there's any change. Alright, so here we are. We've slept until October, so it's now harvest time. So you can see we've got the remove foliage hint. So you can see that there, yield bonus is still 98% on the cultivated section and at 98% on the ploughed section. So what I'm suspecting here, I just want to make sure I've got periodic ploughing still turned on. So I've got it turned off. Interesting. Okay, that's probably going to ruin my test. Let's just turn that back on. Yep. Okay, so I can see that, you can see the difference. So I thought that was a bit strange. Now, I must have turned that off at an earlier stage and forgotten about it, but we can clearly see that the yield bonus on the ploughed section is 98%, and the yield bonus on the cultivated section is 83%. So, bit of a reduction, okay? And it's got the needs ploughing indicator, okay? So even though, righto, that makes sense now. So yes, you do need to plough your fields after sugar beets, potatoes and corn to maintain a high yield. If you want to get around it, basically just turn off periodic ploughing and you'll be fine. Alright, there we go. So we got to the bottom of it. Let's move on. Alright, so let's talk about other storage options. Okay, so we've talked about storing them in pallets on the ground using the roper mouse tool to pick them up, especially designed for that purpose. Now, a good mod that you may want to consider is the root crop storage. So it is a mod in the silo section. So root crop storage building for beets, potatoes, carrots, parsnips, and sugar beets. Okay, so if we put this down, what will happen is what I'll do is I'm just going to park it over here. So on any land that you own, now we do have a trailer with sugar beets still loaded, so we'll go and grab that. Alright, so we've got a trailer full of sugar beets here, so let's go and drop them off into the building. Now the beauty of this is you can basically manually or automatically store and unload via a trailer, okay, rather than having to commute to the grain pool, which is down, so we talked about that, down on the south of the map near the train station or the railway. So you can see them going in there. Now if we jump out, we should see how much is in this building. Yep, so it gives us an indication of how many are in there. Obviously inside here it's just for visual effect. Okay, there's not actually that many in there. Okay, they're getting all loaded up. And if we come around to the unloading point, which is just out here, we can click to start filling, and we can retrieve our sugar beet out of the building like so. Okay, great way to do it, very economical. Obviously give yourself enough room to get in and out of your building, unlike I have here. And that is the root crop storage building. Let's move on. Alright, another option for storage is to just use a bulk haul. Okay, so there is a bulk haul here, the Hallman, which is this guy here. So we're a little bit low on cash, but that's because I'm just demonstrating a few things which I wouldn't normally do. Or you've got this bulk haul here, okay, to store your crops in. So basically you put it on the ground and you can just store your crops in loosely. It's effectively storing them on the ground, but because the building has sides, you can actually fill it up to quite a degree, okay, especially this guy just here. And you can fill your crops in there, either by conveyor belt setup, trailer, or directly unloading via your harvester into the building. Okay, now it just depends how you want to do this, but my recommendation would probably be to utilize the grain pool east in this case. So just for a refresher, that is this guy down here. Okay, so that'll take your root crops, and then there is also one over, I believe, this way, grain west silo. Okay, now I don't know if they have shared capacity or their individual capacity, but basically once the capacity runs out, you need to either invest in this type of building, store them on the ground loosely like we have here, and then use a machine like this to pick them up, or a front loader or some other wheel loader with a bucket, or you can palletize them and then store them in the pallet building. So this guy here, silos, bale and pallet storage. Okay, so this will just allow you to store 250 bales or pallets depending on what you've got. Then you can retrieve them later on for use in your sugar mill. Okay, so just a couple of different options on how to handle it, but basically because you get such high yields out of sugar beets and potatoes, it's a good thing to consider how you're going to handle it, because your sugar mill has, I think it's got a fairly decent capacity. So if we go and have a look at it quickly, I want to say, well, I don't actually know, somebody in the comments might know what the actual capacity of the building is, but in the early game it's very unlikely that you're ever going to run out of storage. Okay, but it's a consideration definitely towards the end of the game. So we'll go and have a look at how many pallets we've got. So we're basically maxed out on our pallet storage currently. I think we can only get, yeah, one row. So that's going to be the limiting factor with your sugar beet production. All right, let's move on. All right, now so we've produced some sugar. Okay, so our sugar mill is producing sugar. Pretty straightforward. Basically the output for sugarcane, sugar beet cut, and sugar beet is sugar. So now we can sell this directly. Okay, so if we go and have a look at the prices menu, go and find sugar, we can see it's currently trading for about 1,500 per 1,000 litres, and that's about the most you're going to get for it, as opposed to the raw sugar beets themselves, which are about 465 per 1,000 litres. So you get about a 3 times return on that product. Now, basically, sugar forms part of other production chains. So if I just quickly have a look and remember which other production chains they can be used in. So I believe cakes is one. Okay, so cakes take sugar, flour, butter, etc. to make other products. And I believe chocolate is the other one. Cereal might take sugar. I can't remember from memory, but I know that chocolate definitely does. So where's chocolate? So you can see here chocolate, and I believe you need milk as well. So chocolate and milk, so sugar and milk will form part of chocolate, and that's going to be in your dairy, I believe. But basically, moral to the story is sugar forms part of other production chains, okay? So you can combine it with other productions to make other things, okay? Otherwise, you can sell it directly, get a 3 times return over and above what you would with just the sugar beets themselves, but it's essentially up to you. So load these up with a forklift and a trailer. If you're on console, there is some auto loading options, but that's just a topic for another video. Console, you've got auto loading mods, so you can move them around however you wish. Alrighty, let's move on. Alright, so let's just do a bit of a recap on the sugar beet farming enterprise and how to get started so far. So we've gone through and harvested sugar beets at least once. Okay, so I've shown you how to go through the planting cycle, how to be mindful of the plowing versus the cultivating, maintain a high yield, all that sort of stuff. Okay, we've covered off on the planter, which I've misplaced. It's definitely, it's over here. So you need a planter for sugar beets. Okay, this one did seeding and fertilizing at the same time, and then we utilized the fertilized spreader, so this guy over here, to get our second state of fertilizer down. Come harvest time, we had a look at the self-propelled. So this is the big guy, the Panther 2. Okay, this is probably the one I recommend, or something similar. But if you want it on a bit of a budget, you want to use something smaller, the toe behind Rootster, Grimmy Rootster, just here, will get the job done as well. Okay, you obviously need a Halloum topper if you're going to use that machine, which is this guy just here. Okay, and then obviously places to store them. So we talked about storing them on the ground and then picking them up and moving them with a rope and mouse. Okay, especially designed for sugar beet collection and loading onto trailers with its big conveyor belt set up here. Okay, or you can just manually load it with a front loader and bucket of any description, or you can use conveyor belt system. So we've got a conveyor belt system set up here, so that can be used to load trailers, your bulk haul if you've got it pointing into a building, or you can use it to create pallets, which we've got just here. Okay, so a couple of different options for that. The root crop storage mod building, so this guy just here allows you to store and unload conveniently. We talked about the grain pool, so the grain pool east and west, which is this guy just here and this guy just here. Okay, but it does have limited storage, so eventually you will run out of storage if your sugar beet production does ramp up and you expand it quite so if you end up expanding it quite a lot, you're going to get a lot of yield and a lot of sugar beets to harvest. Okay, we talked about the liming, we talked about how to deal with the weeds, field rolling, etc. Okay, and then of course how to take the sugar beets, turn them into sugar beet cut using the Flegel Ruby 2000. Okay, and then we've also got the sugar product itself. Okay, so with all that said, obviously this has been part setup and demonstration, so a lot of these machines you possibly wouldn't use if you're playing through this sort of for real. Okay, so obviously we're running low on money here, but you wouldn't be expected to buy, you know, at least all these guys, all these conveyor belts, this root crop storage building. A lot of this equipment you probably don't need. Okay, so you will be able to be profitable from day one by just harvesting the sugar beet, taking it to your sugar mill, turning it into sugar, and then just selling it and building up your cash flow that way. Okay, but I've just gone and sort of showing you some other stuff just for the sake of the tutorial. But if this was sort of your real farm, basically what you would do for now is just go through your cycle of planting, harvest, repeat, produce your sugar, build your income up, and then you can start to look to diversify into other farming areas. So other types of farming, add some animals, whatever. You can basically springboard off from here. Or if you want to go into the root into potatoes instead, you can do that also. So it's just one way to start, and farming in a particular way, in this case sugar beets. So let's move on. So there you have it, guys, my guide on how to start a sugar beet farm in Farming Simulator 22. If you like this video, leave a like. If you've got any questions, leave a comment below. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.